What was the best moment you've seen where the real world hit a spoiled rich kid? Hi Reddit guys, subscribe now, or I will make your first girlfriend. Somewhat distant relative spent all of his university years and 20s partying hard with the circa 100-120k allowance his rich company owning father gave him each year. He'd travel the world each year going to Bali, Thailand, Europe, every year Oktoberfest, just rampaging. At 32 or so he decided to settle an upscale ski resort area of the US and open a business with his hot gold digger fiancée. When he went to transfer his money to his US bank account he noticed it only came to a few $1,000s. He angrily asked the bank worker why she hadn't transferred the entire amount only to be told that that was the entire amount. His father had cut him off without saying anything and he just hadn't noticed. Absolute flatline. And then, I need more. Heavy drugs, self-pity, and finally recovery with only a small side dish of enlightenment. Absolute flatline. Pretty sure he died, man. Legendary, mate. While working in a casino here in Las Vegas, a herd of girls came to my window, and one proceeded to tell me about a great birthday party itinerary that her dad had paid for her 18th birthday, with no adult in the party. Just a bunch of teenage girls, out in Vegas, where none of them could do anything, because none of them were 21. I couldn't even check them into their reservation. They start yelling and screaming at me. I calmly call security, and security tells them they can either go play in the arcade or leave and try to find a hotel off the strip that will take them in out being 21. The anger turns to tears. The security guard is unmoved. That's their parents' fault. A stupid 18th birthday gift. People do it all the time, though. LOL. Really? I mean, I feel like any single person who has been to Vegas knows that it's kinda shoot unless you are 21 plus with some cash to burn. My best moment was when I got hired by a pair of Woodside, CA parents to transition their horrible 18-year-old into the realities of real life, something that evaded both of them. My first action was to take away his platinum, limitless, credit cards. He threw a tantrum that lasted several days. Where am I going to get money? Get a job. My parents will fire you. They didn't. When he realized that boundaries and budgets had been set in stone, and that he not only had to pay the bills, the rent, but taxes too, he headed straight to college to wait out the next 4 years. He is still a little jerk, but at least he has a job and an education now. How does one get into this line of work? I was the nanny while working through my PDD, so I came to it indirectly. There is a whole workforce of folks who do this. Word of mouth and next door. Get paid to tell rich brats to grow up. Where do I sign? The thing is, the way I see it, you have not only tell these fricks to grow up, but he's somewhat successful at it. Sounds like a nightmare to me. I had a roommate my freshman year of college that came from an incredibly rich oil family from the Middle East. I remember him having the hardest time adjusting to not having someone else prepare him food. I remember waking up one morning and going to the kitchen and seeing him try to eat eggs and toast he had just prepared himself. He asked me how I normally prepare fried eggs, because his tasted really crunchy. Turns out he had just cracked the egg hole into the pan and prepared a shell and all. I couldn't stop laughing, but felt really bad for the dude. At least he tried. True. He was a good dude. Was an interesting semester helping him learn how to live providing for himself. Similar thing for me, we had this Middle Eastern basketball player in the room next to us first year of college. He'd tell us incredible stories about his life. Even got chased by an army for courting a princess. He just was extremely clueless when it came to interacting with people here. Super nice guy, I hope he's doing okay. No joke here. Back in high school, 90s, this kid got a brand new Chevy Camaro. I had an old ass 80s Pontiac Phoenix that had the straight six. It was by far not a racing car, but this tool was just looking to brag at what he got compared to the busted cars we got. About 2 days later, while we were waiting at a stoplight, this idiot tries to race us as I am in my car and I pull up with my friends. He does starts by revving it really loud and tries to do a burnout. Mind you, the light was red and the roads were not wet. So he managed to get a tiny burnout going, some smoke and whatnot. When his tires did catch traction, he went barreling into the intersection and smashed the car of the wife of one of the very few cops in my small city. Needless to say, that didn't work out for him very well. At the start of this I thought you were just explaining the plot of Tokyo Drift with slightly different cars. Don't know if I'm happy you weren't bamboozling. Same. I was sitting here waiting for the punchline about Dopey being sent to Japan to live with his father and becoming a drifting legend after a run-in with the Yakuza. That's some Marty McFly shoot. I knew this rich kid from high school that went off to college and partied every single night. His parents found out that he was failing basically all of his classes, so they secretly drove up early one Saturday morning with the spare set of keys to the car they had bought him and just drove off with the car. I knew a guy in high school who bragged that he didn't have to pay attention in school because, get this, his grandfather was a vice president of the corporation that supplied the cardboard for cereal boxes for General Mills. Real gravy train, you know. Last I checked, since deleted Facebook he was still working at Best Buy 5 years after high school, same job he had in high school. I don't think my father, the inventor of toaster strudel, would be too pleased with this. Let it out, honey. Put it in the book. I had a friend in HS who claimed he was an heir to the Sunny D fortune. Did you ever go to his house? What was in his fridge? Purple stuff? One of my college roommates told his parents the trip we were planning, that they were paying for, was $400 more expensive than it was so he could buy a really nice bong. In addition, they basically paid for everything he wanted. He had their credit card and ordered food on it at least once daily. He also would make $50 purchases off the card pretty regularly. Long story short, they found out he lied about the cost of the trip. For whatever reason they still paid and let him go, but after the trip he could not use their card anymore. This dude acted like he lived the hardest life of all time afterwards, but eventually sucked it up. He actually acts way less entitled now. It ended up having a lasting positive effect for him, even though he wouldn't admit it. That one Instagram model who got caught on video talking shoot to a security guard at VidCon. Not only did the guard stand his ground and not let him in, because he wasn't famous enough to be given a pass and too rich to just buy one, but once the internet saw the video the guard ended up with more followers than the kid. Classmate in college failed his course. Partied for a year with daddy's money. Never studied. Ever. Thing is, inheriting his father's construction company, 2 quarries, a fleet of trucks and equipment, depended on him manning up and passing the class. All he had to do was learn the basics of mechanical diagnostic and repair, and be set for life. He just needed to pass one class. Talk about wasted opportunities. One course, he failed 4 or 5 classes. All were needed to graduate. Oh, I see. Administration and faculty at a university refused a substantial offer of endowment money from a couple that wanted their son enrolled as an art major. Their son couldn't meet the minimum scholastic entrance requirements and he had little aptitude for art. Still, with their millions, he thought money would buy his way to an easy degree as an art major. He was dumbfounded to receive a notice of non-admittance. Cries in German. Someone is gonna pay for this down the road. I grew up with rich kids and still keep in touch with a few of them. One guy's father owned the most prestigious law firm in town. He said his life changed the moment he called his father from jail, the second time it happened. His father said, "Well, sorry to hear you got arrested, good luck," then hung up. He said getting locked back into his cell was the singular moment that completely turned his life around. That's a good life lesson. Sounds like the dad cares, but wants his son to actually grow up to be a good successful person. Do you know if he actually turned his life around and got better from there? Yep, that sounds sensible. Of course you'd help your kid out the first time. Getting arrested twice is a problem the kid needs to work out himself. Call me once. Shame on you. Call me twice. New phone. Who dis? My grandfather was the same way as an attorney. Father. A favorite family story is when my uncle called him from a police station on a Friday night. He was in high school at the time and got caught drinking. My grandfather answered the phone and simply asked, "What did you do?" And my uncle responds, "Nothing." "Great, tell them to let you go," hangs up the phone and goes back to sleep. Both my uncle and the police were stunned, but it being the weekend, my uncle ended up having get transferred to the county jail until Monday morning. The police from the jail called my grandfather on Monday morning and said, "You've got to pick the pool kid up." His time in jail wasn't particularly traumatic, but it taught him a pretty valuable lesson in how principled my grandfather was. Had he been honest and just admitted what he did, he wouldn't have been in that situation. Probably on the BBC yesterday when Prince Andrew got the shit kicked out of him for an hour about his association with Epstein. When did you last speak with Ghislaine? Summer, late spring, early spring. When did Epstein get arrested? July. Yes, before July. Where were you on the 10th of March 2001? Pizza Express Woking. LOL. Okay Reddit guys, subscribe now, or I will make your first girlfriend.